Okay, folks, we're going to start tonight. We have a half hour dedicated to Brad Williamson to answer questions about hardware procurement for the fire department, as well as, I believe, his plan for the future. So with that, we're going to get out of the way and let Brad do it, because this is give it to the public too.
Oh, I will, like funny.
All right.
Got my glasses.
And if I don't have enough, I'm going to have to use the copy again now? Oh, that's okay.
Dave, you got one of these?
I already printed them. Gave you one tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A few folks that don't know me.
I'm sorry, Brad, could you make some more copies if you need them, because we don't have copies? Thanks.
So we have to leave some sidelines.
That's right past us.
Yeah, nothing personal. I'm Brad Williamson, fire warden for the town of Brookfield. Responsible for issuing the fire permits, keeping an eye on what folks doing as far as fires going, and also suppression of wildfires within the town. We have 4 deputy wardens that assist me in these projects. Last year we had a 48-acre fire here in town that fortunately didn't cause extensive damage, but it was enough for everybody to notice and realize exactly what wildfire can do and also what it can cost.
Is that last year's fire on the?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, up on Tumbledown Dip Road. That fire, 48 acres, 1 day, 2 days, 1 day to suppress it and a second day to clean it up, had the potential to cost the town over $23,000 just for that one little fire. A lot of the majority of it was done by mutual aid, the surrounding communities that came and responded. We had, I want to say close, it's just over 10 communities, I believe. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. Fortunately, no one billed us because of the mutual aid agreement. One thing about mutual aid, though, is mutual aid is an assistance. They come and they help you. They don't come and do your job. By state statute, RSA, each community is responsible for its own wildfires. So even though like we have Wakefield covering us for fire, ambulance, and police, wildfire is a separate animal and is not covered under those agreements. Put together a plan as to what we could use over the next 5 years to develop a reasonable forestry department. Did a needs assessment on it, basically. Met with the selectmen, at a budget hearing, we talked about it, and there was some thought that 5 years was too long a period to draw it out. Over a 5-year period, when we needed the equipment, we needed it, not to say, well, we're planning on it in 3 years from now. That won't help us on today's fire. So we accelerated the plan a little bit. At town meeting, there was some discussion about the possibility of forming a committee to recommend what the purchases might be. I was a little concerned about that. Wildfire fighting is a specialty, by all means. Myself and one of the deputies have extensive training in it. The other 3 deputies have solid training in it. And we have a pretty good handle on what's necessary. So at the last selectmen's meeting, we talked about it, and the 4 deputies and myself got together, formed a committee. And it was suggested that we come and do a presentation on it this evening. So that's what this is. And during the meeting, we did a needs assessment of where we are, what happened here in town last year, and the potential. We also looked at similar fires around neighboring communities, what the potential was 2 years ago, Ossipee had a fire that was over 275 acres. The tab for that was over $210,000. They brought helicopters, it was a 4-day fire. They brought helicopters in. The private company that does it, JBI, Joe Brigham Industries out of Concord, had 2 helicopters. For the 2 of those, it cost over $2,500 an hour. Then the National Guard came in with their Blackhawk. They charged $4,800 an hour. And this is portable portables from the time they lift off till the time they get home. And like the Blackhawk, every 4 hours has to go back to Laconia to fuel, and you don't get a discount for that. So it adds up quickly. So what we like to do is be able to be proactive in this instead of reactive. So coming up last night, when we had the meeting, we came up with the following items. You'll find on your sheet, first thing is the budget that was approved by the town at town meeting. The overall forestry budget was $7,600. There was also an expendable trust fund created for $10,000. One of the purposes of the trust fund, or at the time of its development, was consideration of replacing the current truck that we have, which is 20 years old. It would be nice to replace it in about 5 years, if not sooner, but 5 years when it's 25 years old, definitely. So for the equipment is, we looked at 2 different areas, and one of them is water handling. How do you get water to the fire? It's a key ingredient to extinguishing the fire, to suppressing it. There are specialty pumps made for that, for the forestry wildfire business. One of them is called the Mark III. What makes it special and makes it expensive, it's lightweight, you carry it in on your back, but it produces very high pressures, around 350 pounds. So a single pump can pump water higher than Moose Mountain on the level to pump it over 10,000 feet and still give you useful flow. So they're a very effective pump. So we put in for one of those. Then there's the BB4, which is the big brother to the Mark III pump. It's a $4,500 pump without the kit, just by itself. And I had a call from a fellow firefighter the other day that happens to own one personally. It's about 12 years old, never been used. I'm not sure it's even had gasoline ever put in the tank. And he's willing to sell it to the town for $750. I told him we'd be very interested. I didn't make any commitments. I have not seen it yet, but I wanted to present it. It's something that otherwise we wouldn't be able to afford in a long time. Also in there, you'll notice the backpack blower, which some people think is kind of funny. To put a fire out, you want a fan over there, and that's not the concept of it. A lot of your fires are surface debris fires this time of year, and it's been demonstrated, both nationally but also with the surrounding communities, if you can get out there and blow the leaves and stuff away ahead of the fire, that's more effective than doing handwork. In between the handwork and the blower, you're able to establish a very defensible fire line and keep the fire in check. Then a chainsaw, cutting down trees, no, not good ones, but quite often trees will get burned to a point where they're not safe and have to come down. What's really neat is dead trees that are hollow inside. They'll get a fire at the base, you don't see anything, and then 15, 20 feet up, there'll be a knothole or something, and fire comes shooting out of it. It's really spectacular. But the only way you can put those fires out is to take the tree down. So that's the chainsaw with accessories would be chaps, eye protection, everything you would need. The thought on that is that where those are long-term investments, those would come out of the expendable trust fund. And then out of the operating budget, we would be looking for 5 sets of personal protective equipment, which would be the yellow Nomex shirts and hard hats. Currently, myself and the wardens are outfitted. The comment was made at the budget hearing, and it was supported, was that if there is a large fire, there are lay people in town that are very willing to participate in helping suppress the fire. They don't know about it, but if they're sent out with a leader, digging fire line is digging fire line. It's not really complicated. And just keep the people away from the fire but you do want to put them out there properly prepared, which would be a no mixture and a hard hat. So start off with 5 sets of those. Eventually we'll have to pick up another 5 sets. 1,000 feet of forestry hose. Currently we have 600 feet. Getting the pumps is great, but if you can't get the water to the fire, that's a little difficult. So over time, we'd like to build up the cache of hose, but start out with 1,000 feet. Miscellaneous hand tools, a couple sets of those. We have 1 complete set now. Having the help but not the tools to put them out there with is kind of a hindrance. So plus getting crews from other towns. A lot of times you'll be able to get people a lot easier than you'll be able to get their equipment, particularly on a second or third day. So that would help fit other folks. The backpack pumps, the bladder bag ones are soft, flexible nylon with plastic liners. So much nicer carrying than the old steel tanks. Nicer carrying, therefore making them more effective because people willing to carry them further. Headlamps. It gets pretty dark out there once the sun sets, and trying to trip around in the dark is not exactly a safe thing. So start out with 5 headlamps for the ward and the 4 deputies, and then eventually expand that cache also to meet the same number of PPE sets that we end up with. And then truck repair is going to get an inspection sticker on the truck. It's due, however, we thought we were done with the major maintenance on it, but it appears to have a wheel bearing problem. It's Ford, in their great wisdom, created it in such a way that it's not an easy fix. You have to replace the whole hub. So that'll be estimated to be around $980. So that gives a total of $4,450 out of the $7,600. However, in the $7,600, there's $2,000 for dry hydrants that we don't want to touch. That's for the inspection of them, underwater inspection through a scuba diver, and then beginning preliminary repairs on them. So the suggestion is to leave that intact, and you'll end up with a balance of $1,100 and change, which would cover mileage. However, it's been years since mileage has been charged. We pretty much do it out of the goodness of our hearts. And then that leaves $1,000 for forestry control, i.e. payment and things like that. Again, towns through mutual aid are very good. They generally don't charge for something short term. If they're here for 5 days, they're going to start charging because that costs them money. But the other half of mutual aid, they come and help us. We go and help them when they have a large fire when it's necessary. That's my presentation pretty much. Be happy to entertain any questions or thoughts on anything that I've said or what I haven't said. Yes, Frank.
On the equipment you're going to buy underneath the operating expenses, the hose, the hand tools, the backpacks, pumps, the goal there is you're going to use them more than 1 year. You're going to start, you'll keep
No, those have a long shelf life.
You're just taking them out of this year's annual operating budget.
Correct, instead of taking them all out of capital.
And then where's all this equipment going to be stored?
Well, funny you should mention that, Frank. That is an issue. What we have is currently stored in the sand shed, which is of some security. The small Mark III pump, there's still room for it on the truck. The backpacks and things like that would fit on the truck. We also have a small trailer out there, a military Jeep trailer. And that would be able to accommodate the larger pump, the rest of the tools, things like that. 2-inch coupler on it, so go behind the forestry or any number of people can just back up and grab with their pickups, or even the Jeep to the side of it, and bring it to the scene. Eventually, it'd be nice to get an enclosed trailer that we wouldn't have to worry about security with, but I see that a ways down the road. David?
So what is a ways down the road? Like, what's the objective there? Because you keep mentioning outlay this year, additional outlay next year for more equipment and parts, but like, do we have, like, is there a 3-year objective, a 5-year objective? Like, are we trying to build a fire department? Where are we going with this?
No, not a fire department by any means. They're 2 totally different animals. Wildfires and structure fires. Fire departments deal with structures. Forestry Department deals with forestry. This is a major part of it. What we're looking at further down the road, hopefully next year, if the town continues to be as generous as they were, is another 5 sets of PPE, protective equipment. Another 2,000 feet thereabouts of hose, a few more fittings for the hose. For something large like a trailer, I'd look at the expendable trust fund, depending upon the future of that, using that to get something like the trailer. Once we get this list, the rest of our needs at this point, we don't anticipate are going to be extensive.
Well, we have trailer, new truck.
Yeah.
Like, those are significant capital expenditures.
They are, cargo trailer will be around $3,000. We don't need a massive one. And as far as the truck goes, we're looking at a replacement truck. I can't stand here and tell you if it's gonna be new, used, or anything else, Dave. It's just, within 5 years, ours is gonna need to be replaced. So that's my and the deputy's desire, is to keep putting money away. And when this truck has to be replaced, make a presentation to the town, see how much money is allotted, and that'll determine what we can get. But between now, next year will give us another good charge of equipment, shall we say. And then after that, at this point, I don't anticipate any major expenses until some are drawn out of reserve fund.
And have we determined that the truck is the solution as opposed to a Ranger or a quad or something like that you can actually access these fires with? At least in my time here, I don't ever remember the truck heading out into the woods to fight a fire.
In the ideal world, we'd have both of them. There's reasons for each. One of the things truck does is it will get the ATV to the location. But there are a lot of fires where you don't need it, where you're better off, it's a roadside fire or only 1,000 feet into the woods. So the truck and 1,000 feet of hose is a lot more effective than trying to get some type of utility vehicle in there. The fire that we had last year, having a utility vehicle would have been great. We did have, one of the deputies ponied up his own machine, free of charge to use, and there were 4 other machines brought in from surrounding communities. Would I like to have one here in town? Sure. And that's something that we could look at down the road. Yes?
When you're fighting fires in remote areas,
Yeah.
do you carry water as close as you can?
We pump it as close as we can and then have to carry it the rest of the distance.
Carry it with what, buckets?
The backpack bladder bags, 5 gallons in each one. So you're talking 45 pounds of water and 5 pounds of pack. So you're talking about 50 pounds to carry.
How do you get the water up there?
Last year it was 2 streams, small streams we used. One stream was only producing probably, I don't know if it was even doing 5 gallons a minute. You need flow for wildfire, but it's totally different from a structural fire. Fighting wildfire, you do somewhere between 3 and 30 gallons a minute, whereas on a structural nozzle, you're talking 50 to, depending upon how big the nozzle is, 1,000 gallons a minute. So you don't, it's nice to have a larger supply of water, but it's not totally necessary.
So what do we have for a supply of water on our forestry equipment to get this close to the fire to be pumped the rest of the way before it's carried? You have to find a stream or a pond or something?
Yes. Well, again, when you're in a remote area. Or you can, like the BP4 pump, set that up at the base with a portable tank that no, we don't have, but other communities would have, or pump it into our truck. And then from there, set the BP4 up, and that'll pump, like I say, all the way to one pump to the top of Moose Mountain.
So our truck carries water?
Yes, 150 gallons.
Okay.
As part of mutual aid, will surrounding fire departments that own pumpers, tank trucks, will they bring them in for a forestry fire if needed? Or do they reserve those just for structure fires?
No, they will bring in what's necessary. However, keeping in mind with mutual aid, they also have their own communities to protect.
Right.
So they're not necessarily going to send all their equipment, all their resources to us. Because if they have a fire, then they have no one there. Because when this fire danger day is high, it's a large area. Yes.
So about the truck, how long have we had the current truck?
The current truck is a 2000.
We've had it since it was new?
Yes. However, it spent the first 10, 11 years of its life as a highway truck. Did the snow plowing, salting, and sanding. That's tough on.
Okay. But in terms of, how long have we had a forestry truck for forestry?
35 years?
Okay, and in those 35 years, how often has it been used for actually fighting a wildfire? How many hours of actual use in the last 35 years has there been? I know that, I mean, ballpark, obviously, I'm not holding you to a number.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It runs anywhere from 5 to 105 hours a year.
But we only have one fire since, one decent-sized fire since I've been here in the last 10 or 12 years. And that was last year. How many hours was it actually used to fight the fire last year?
Well, that fire was between 25 and 30 hours.
But I thought the fire was nowhere near the road. Did you put water in the truck?
Yes,
And did you use the water that was in the truck?
yes,
So you used the 100 and, would you say 5 gallons?
150.
150 gallons?
Yep,
How many times did you have to refill it?
that I honestly couldn't tell you, Rob, because I wasn't in charge.
If the truck hadn't been there, would it have, were there other sources of water or whatever it was doing that were actually there? I'm trying to understand, is the truck a nice to have? Or is it really gonna, be a make or break piece of equipment for them? Because it's expensive, right? I mean, it's gotta be tens of thousands of dollars to replace it in 5 years or whatever you're planning to replace it, right? So is that, I'm trying to understand, is that piece of equipment, does that really need to be part of the long-term plan?
Well, that large fire is not the only type of fires we've put out with it. We've had a lot of illegal campfires, we've got roadside fires with it. There's a lot of small fires that occur during the year that we use that truck for. And again, it's, what is insurance worth? That's also part of the program, or part of the thought process. It's not a dollar insurance program, but it's an insurance to help keep fires in check before they do get to be tremendous fires. And like I say, yes, there is mutual aid, but again, mutual aid is to help you do your job, it's not to do your job for you.
I understand, I'm just trying to understand the truck.
Yeah.
If the truck blew up tomorrow, what would you do this summer without a truck?
Come to the selectmen and ask them what they have for ideas to raise the funds.
So the whole town's gonna burn down if we don't have a truck for the summer?
I can't say yes or no to that, Rob. Anything is possible in there. When it comes to fire, anything is possible.
In the last 35 years, if the truck hadn't been available at a critical point in time, what was the worst that would have happened?
Well, if we didn't catch the small roadside fires, you could be looking at a very extensive fire.
Right, but at those times those fires happened, was there some, if the truck hadn't been there, was there some other contingency plan? Would Wakefield have rolled over and put out the roadside fire with their equipment that's used for structure fires?
Most probably. But again, it depends upon what their current situation is.
Right, but in the last 35 years, was there a time when they wouldn't have been available?
That's a question I can't answer with their availability, Rob. I don't know. Have they responded? Yes. Have we been successful with them responding? Yes.
I would expect that you would remember a time if all of their equipment were being used somewhere else, right? That would be a really bad day.
Well, I've only been working for 3 years. So a lot of, there is not a recollection of that because I don't have knowledge of it.
Okay. I'll just put out there that I have serious reservations about whether or not it makes sense for us to, be spending several $1,000s a year on average for a truck that,
Sure.
may or may not get used. That may not be the best way to spend our money, I guess is what I'm suggesting that, it's not obvious to me that that's the best way to spend the money.
I understand, and as a taxpayer of the town, I truly appreciate that thought.
So, can I ask a question about response times?
Yes, Dave.
How? I guess if I had a fire back at the farm,
Mhm.
I'm calling the Wakefield Fire Department.
No, actually, you should be calling 911.
Alright, I'm calling 911, but are they dispatching you, or are they dispatching the Wakefield Fire Department?
Both.
So how long is it gonna take for, Brookfield and its 5 deputies to mobilize, get equipment, and get to the fire, as opposed to the Wakefield Fire Department?
Can be as little as 5 minutes, and Wakefield can be as little as 10 minutes. They only have 2 people on full-time during the day, and if they're out in East Wakefield on Bonnyman Road, you're looking at a 30-minute response time. But granted, if myself or one of the 4 deputies isn't in town, we're not gonna have an immediate response either.
So do we have coverage, is there, I would be amazed if you guys were actually doing 24/7 coverage, but do we have coverage, is someone on call, or someone on duty?
We pretty much all are when we're available.
But, when you say, hey, Rich, it's Brad, I'm going to Portsmouth for the day, can you make sure you're around, or is it just
No, last week I was out of town, I went to New Orleans for a week. I made it known that I wasn't gonna be available, so other people would be. Is there a formal night or daily sign-up log? No, there is not.
so someone's call, I guess, so the question is someone, are we gonna get that response time locally, especially if we invest in a ton of equipment? I know you're here quite a bit of the time, but are we gonna end up with some type of the ability to respond quickly? I just can't imagine Dave, as an example, has to leave his house, come here, fire up the town truck, load the trailer, go get water,
Don't have to get water, stored with water all the time.
run, get to the fire, run the hose.
Yeah.
That's all a ton of time logistically, so I don't know how, I would imagine that the reason they want towns to have the equipment is to have faster response, because you're local, but we don't necessarily always have that.
Our opportunity to have that is pretty much close to any other community having that. One of the things that would be very nice is to get more community participation. It doesn't have to be just the 5 of us, myself and the 4 deputies. As they say, there was interest expressed at the budget hearing that if there was a fire about lay people getting involved. I love to have more people get involved and take that beyond a lay person standpoint, get some basic training and understanding for it. And when they're available, no, we're not gonna have pages and radios for everybody, but in today's age of communication, cell phones and so forth, it's pretty easy to get the word out.
Just one more side question. Have we ever asked, and this is maybe a selectman's question, but have we ever asked Wakefield for what it would cost to have coverage for forestry?
Yeah, they don't wanna, because it can be open-ended, they'll support us, but they reserve the right to bill us. The town is financially responsible for forest fire suppression. That doesn't mean we have to put it out ourselves, but we're financially responsible.
In any case, right?
In any
Whether it's
case.
Wakefield or Brookfield, or-
That's right. They can bill us. They might if it's a big fire.
Well, which would be the same as if we had a big fire in Brookfield, which we can't have a big fire either. Right, so you're gonna call mutual aid, whether it's Wakefield or Brookfield or.
So, but I think maybe to variant of that question is, have we approached Wakefield and say, hey, can we pay you $10,000 a year to be our first responders for wildfires?
We talked-
And with the idea that, you know, that would replace this potentially, right? Instead of us having equipment that doesn't get used very much, and them having equipment that doesn't get used much, buy one copy of it, and maybe we supply people as well as part of that, but, I mean, has that ever been discussed? Is that,
We talked to the chief about forest fire suppression. It is clear in the contract right now that that's not part of it. And they could bill us in the future if they'd like to. When I was discussing it with him after the forest fire up on the hill, he was very reluctant into going into that space because of potential cost. Because if we pick up the responsibility, and it's a $200,000, if they pick up the responsibility and it's a $200,000 fire, they don't wanna go there. Right, so we never went further than those early discussions.
You could contractually give them a waiver on that, right? So you,
Yes, we could.
so their liability is capped at whatever,
Sure.
$5,000 or something.
Sure.
Well, we already own liability.
or they have no liability and they're just contracting with us to provide response,
Yep.
right? And that they will have equipment that's appropriate for a town our size, and the response is appropriate for a town our size, right? It would, I mean,
We didn't have those detailed discussions, but that's potential.
I would say that that's maybe worth pursuing,
Yeah.
and see if their forest fire warden or the town is interested in that kind of relationship, because that, I mean, it may cost us just as much money, but we don't have equipment sitting, not being used.
Yeah, I understand.
Yes, sir.
I have 3 questions, but now after this conversation, I have 4, and I'm gonna start with the last one.
Okay.
If the RSA states, which is one of the questions I'd like, do you know what the RSA number is? Or could you get it to me? Because I'd like
Not
to.
off the top of my head, I'm gonna say it's in the 271 section.
Okay. If the RSA states that we are responsible for these forest fires, and it's my belief that it is pertaining to financial responsibility only. I don't believe the RSA states that we have to have the equipment to fight fires. It just says we are financially responsible for that fire.
They leave it up to,
So now I'll back up to this last conversation.
yeah,
With the interest of these folks asking about Wakefield covering for us, they wouldn't be liable for that money anyways, because the RSA clearly states that we are responsible, they'd be just supplying a service. So it should be able to be contracted with Wakefield.
which they currently supply now.
Right, but on a
That's a
more
very big-
official basis,
Right.
with the understanding, per RSA, that we will bear the burden financially for that
Mhm.
service.
Mhm.
That was kind of 1 and 2. I wanted the RSA and I wanted to make that statement. Another, you said the tank on the truck is 150 gallons?
Correct.
How long will that last? Wide open.
It depends upon how you use it. If you're pumping 15 gallons a minute, you're talking 10 minutes. But very seldom you're pumping that flow of water. A lot of times you're refilling the 5-gallon backpacks. On a roadside fire,
That's kind of where I'm going, roadside fire. You know, if somebody calls in and said, hey, there's a fire along the side of 109, which there was it last year or the year before? There was one here on 109. I don't think you're gonna be dribbling it out, you're probably gonna lay it down and wet the area.
initially for knockdown, all depends upon what's burning and everything else, but no, in wildfire, we don't use a lot of water. We take a minimalist approach to it, where structure fires really hammer to it.
I'm not so sure you wanna talk about minimal amount of water when you're asking for pumps and stuff like that.
Well, I
But
think-
anyways, I won't go there.
I think if if a roadside fire, Wakefield's gonna roll up with,
Not if it's a brush fire.
what,
Well,
They-
my point is
They
how
will.
long is that tank gonna last before you need Wakefield's assistance?
Could be 10 minutes, could be an hour.
Okay.
We're gonna wrap this up at quarter
Yeah.
to 7.
But I've been patiently waiting to ask the
Okay.
questions.
Quarter to 7, you got,
So I got two more.
you got 10 minutes.
227L, 227L, I'm reading it right now, the
Oh,
RSA.
227L. Oh, thank you. I didn't, you were out of left field, I didn't know what you were talking about there for a minute. Back to your 30-minute response time from Wakefield if they were way out on Bonnyman Road.
Yeah.
But if the tone goes out, there's somebody, the on-call fire people who happen to be home or coming home from work or wherever, do you really think if those two full-time firefighters were out on Bonnyman Road, that it would take 30 minutes to get somebody here with a piece of equipment?
At
I
times,
find that hard to believe.
you know, at
because-
times it would have, look at ambulance response times when they're out of Bonnyman Road. They're not the only two people that provide the EMS service.
I understand that.
There's a lot of members, and even with the fire,
Mhm.
those people, most of them have working jobs. There's a couple that respond that I'm not sure.
I, usually when a tone goes out, I see red lights coming on private vehicles at every direction.
Okay.
And then my last question is pertaining to Rob brought up the subject of how often you go out
Mhm.
and use the truck over the last 35 years. Do you keep a log of when you go out?
Unofficially, yes.
Shouldn't we be
I
keeping
try
an
and
official
report, I
one?
try and report that in the annual report.
Yeah. And if you get toned out, isn't there a, doesn't dispatch carry a log?
Mhm.
So when you get toned out, that could be very accurately answered, correct?
Correct.
So I think if we wanted to know how many times you were dispatched out, that could be obtained.
Yep, but we're not always dispatched to 911. And it's been I can't tell you what percentage yet, but there's been a fair number of times that it's come in via telephone from a concerned neighbor, something like that, for an illegal fire, illegal campfire,
Yep.
or small brush fire.
Okay, those were my questions, and I'm done.
Can I ask one other, just a, like, this is a selecting question again, but isn't the, so if I had a fire on the farm, why is the town responsible for the fire and paying for it and not my own liability or my own insurance? Like, are we like,
We're talking forestry fires.
what defines forestry? I have
Woods,
300
not
acres.
structure, woods.
So I have woods in the back of my
Yeah.
farm. If those light on fire, I don't have responsibility.
The selectmen will bill you.
That's my point.
If you were like, doing something stupid
But even
and
if I
started a fire.
wasn't and lightning hit, like, I guess the question is, are we, like, is the town reacting to a cost issue when there really is no cost issue? Because theoretically, it's a pass-through to the landowner.
It depends upon what started the fire, Dave. The quote, responsible party can be billed for. I don't know about you, but if there's a $200,000 fire on my property, I financially can't be responsible for that.
Well, Chubb Insurance is responsible for mine, right? So I call up and say, the town sent me a bill for $200,000 fighting my fire. You know, like,
I don't believe that's in the
that's why you
policy.
have,
I don't believe wildfire is in the policy. But anyway, yeah, the town's responsible. It's like up on, all the land in town is privately owned. It's still the town's responsibility if there's a wildfire.
to put it out or not to pay for it or to put it out.
Yes.
Both.
Yes. And the thing is, if a responsible party is found, they'll be billed for it. If a responsible party is not found, the state will cost share a limited amount with the communities. But that's based on their rates, and then they'll pay 50% of what their rates are. Their rates are totally unrealistic. They pay something absurd like $35 an hour for a fire engine. Communities bill nothing less than $125 an hour.
So if it's state land, is the town still responsible? So if it's a state fishing game, and I guess what percentage of the forestry land in town is privately owned versus state or some other entity owned?
As a taxpayer, I can say unfortunately close to 25% of this town is in public ownership.
25%?
I believe so, the last time I took a tally. Which is, from the tax base, pretty high. But anyway, not getting into that conversation. I can't answer that question for you, Dave, but I will say, to a point, yes.
Last one, really quick, I think the answer is probably gonna be, we don't know, but does somebody out there sell insurance that would protect us against the $200,000 fire? That we could pay $2,000 a year for insurance and have somebody else pick up, or whatever the number is, have somebody else pick up the tab if we have one of those once in 100 years types of events?
You're right.
I mean, somebody's got, you can buy insurance on anything, right?
I'm looking for Brian. He might know. He's in the insurance business. Can we buy fire protection for wood fire?
No, because it's real property, and real property is uninsurable. How would you value trees?
No, I'm thinking in terms of, can the town buy insurance
Oh, for public?
against the cost of suppressing the fire?
A typical general liability or homeowners policy has a very low allotment amount, like if I get like a fire department, I think there's like $5,000 for like a fire or something like that. I don't know if you can up that.
No, I'm not as a homeowner, but as a town, so.
No, and just trust me, that's not a very specialized policy. I would imagine it's probably, anything's insurable, but it's gonna come at a premium, but I think I've never really seen that other than on a Grange policy where they intentionally burn. In Grange policies, we'll cap that as well, it's like $10,000 or $20,000. So, on question, I can't give you a good answer other than what I've seen.
Just a
No.
quick lay reading of RSA 27, L22 and L23, to me says that we are already capped. Municipality is capped to 1/4 of 1% of our assessed evaluation as to the maximum amount we would have to pay for a fire unless they could prove the fire was caused by the negligence of town personnel. So the state will pick up the tab after that amount. So whatever 1/4 of 1% of our current evaluation, which I don't have that off the top of my head.
$100 million.
Okay, so 1/4 of 1% of that, that is our potential, if I read this RSA correctly, and I'm a layperson, not a lawyer, that there is a cap, It says we're responsible, but it puts a cap on it of 1/4, unless we can prove negligence on some sort, then they can come after us.
So $250,000 would be our
Yes,
financial
so
responsibility.
there's the responsibility that we're talking about.
Just a real quick comment on that. I don't,
If you're ready.
there's a little thing in the bottom of everything the state puts out as funds are available. Just keep that in
Oh,
mind.
yeah,
Okay.
and I think I did just read that too.
Okay.
No, I'm saying-
Thank you.
I think it's there, I think it's there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. We appreciate the information. Okay, we're gonna start the selectors meeting a little late. We're gonna start a little late. Thank you. Yeah. What road?
It also says, screening cost of the permit, it doesn't say that. It implies that we did.
Do I have time to see the agenda?
That'd be good.
Maybe there's nothing?
You really expecting it to rain that much? Gets that deep in trouble.
The yard's a mess.
Yeah, right? You step in, it's like,
Yeah.
We're waiting for the agenda.
How are you?
Looks good to me.
I think I asked you this, but I don't know. Looks long ago.
We got it already, yes.
Mary Lou, any news about Joe yet?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
That's what he has yet? Do they know what he has?
No. He hasn't been able to go up to Dartmouth for the test. And they haven't scheduled the test yet.
Had to go buddy up to Maryland on Sunday. I saw you were down in New York City. I knew what that meant.
You went to Maryland?
Drove to Baltimore on Sunday. I left my house at 4. We drove all down there, had to pick somebody up, driving back to Newport, Rhode Island, then drive back to Massachusetts, and then I drove. I got home that morning at 4:45. I was running in. Any good email?
3 signatures total.
Oh, this one.
Tom, we have another squeaky door. This is.
Okay.
2 in the other one.
Yeah, just joking.
Something else to put on the list.
Just take it off.
I know you're out of town this weekend, but when you can.
One of the justices had a cell phone on the road just in front of
Make it in the next one.
I think that's for Virginia. You've given it back to
Virginia or?
Virginia.
You want a copy?
So it's closed.
I did it.
That's this thing? Thank you.
Yeah,
You did that?
yeah,
So I remember talking about it.
I did it.
So I closed it?
I filed it. It's number 3 on my report tonight.
Good.
What are they saying?
The same Mary Lou's been delinquent. I guess.
No, I definitely did it before.
Okay.
I printed it out too.
All right. Oh.
Thank you.
All right. All right, I'll call the meeting to order, 6:50. Brian, would you lead us tonight?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the agenda calls for, Brad was gonna talk about the forest fire equipment, he did that, the next, we're gonna come back to that, Brad. Next one is gonna be Craig Evans, is gonna talk to us about the archivist job, which he holds.
Okay.
So, is it okay if I sit down?
Please. Please start with, maybe you're gonna, with what this is all about.
Well, I was asked by the selectmen to fill them in on, come up with some kind of a job description for what a archivist
I call it archivist slash records manager does in this town. So I pulled together a brief job description, basically on what I do, but also what I know about archives and records management. And I thought I would, I don't think any of the three of you were here when the position was started, which was March 8th, 1994 as a warrant article. And what had happened was, in preparation for the town bicentennial and the writing of the town history, the group that was responsible basically for the town history, actually was the bicentennial committee, did an inventory of all the town record books that we had, which at that time were stored in Virginia's room up on top of that wooden closet. Some of the oldest books, well, the oldest books that we have, the very first record book of actually Middleton and then Brookfield, we got to keep it because the town clerk lived on this side of the mountains when we split from Middleton. I mean, a amazing collection of historic documents and records that weren't being cared for very well. Obviously, they were cared for in some form or fashion because we have almost all our records. We have all our town record books from the incorporation of the town and before that. At that time, I had already joined, I'd moved here in '92, and I had joined a group that started in '92, which now is known as the New Hampshire Archives Group. At that time, it was known as something else, something to do with documentary artifacts. I can't remember the exact formal title. And so I got interested in I heard about the town record books that they had, and then there was this armoire that when you open it up was all pigeonholes. It's the one that sits over in the schoolhouse right now. And that was filled with loose papers that had been tied up with string, folded and tied up with string. So I spent either 2 or 3 winters untying those and flattening them out to find out what they were. So the long and short of it is, because of my interests, they created the position. And it was kind of created without a job description. I don't think the 3 selectmen who created it really had much of an idea of what this was about, except that the Bicentennial Commission prevailed on them to have somebody start taking care of this stuff. At the same time, we created a trust fund, which exists today. It has a little bit over $10,000 in it. To begin to, on an annual basis, we were putting $2,500 into the trust fund with the idea that, as needed, the different town record books would be sent out for professional conservation. And so far, we've done 3 of those books, the first 3 town record books, all which were in need of professional conservation. And so I volunteered my time for, I don't know exactly how many years, but over 10 years, probably longer than that, and actually got a lot more accomplished when I was volunteering my time than I've gotten accomplished since I've started charging for my time. And I started charging for my time, I'd say about 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And as you know, there's a small budget every year to pay for my time and to pay for supplies. The problem, of course, is I'm not going to be around forever. If something happened to me today on my way home, you'd be up the creek, the proverbial creek, without the proverbial paddle. Although you'd be able to figure out some stuff, because what's missing, number one, there's only a very small part that's been done. I mean, people go in and they see the document boxes and everything, and you know, I can open up a box and find something sometimes. People are impressed with that, but There needs to be a finding aid, which is standard when you have a collection like this, that describes at the file level what can be found in what box in what file. The system that I'm using here is the system that I've used in the town of Madison and the town of the town of Sandwich, which are two towns where I've done a complete, what we call an archival vault project, where all their records have been organized, arranged, and described, and they have a system in place for, on an annual basis, integrating new records, like the minutes of meetings, or the most recent zoning ordinance, or whatever else needs to be integrated into the system. They have a system in place. And they have a finding aid that's in a 3-ring binder, and it describes, well, I started to say that the system that I've used here and in those other two towns is a group, series, box, file. So you start with the large data and you move down to the smallest piece of data, which is the file. The group would be the selectmen's group. The series within the selectmen's groups would be minutes. That would be Series A. Series B might be litigation files, because when the town gets sued, basically the selectmen represent the town in the lawsuit. You might have another series for correspondence, and then each series has its own document box, and within that document box there might be 40 files. So if there's litigation files and there's been 30 lawsuits in the history of the town, the more contemporary history of the town, then there'd be a finding aid that would say, if you're looking for the lawsuit where the Bold family sued the town of Brookfield, you'd go to this box and you'd go to this file. And that's what you would do. You would walk in there. You wouldn't walk in there. Somebody would walk in there, Virginia or myself, and retrieve that file, so that you don't have to go through all the files trying to find it.
So you're sharing with us what you do,
Yeah.
and how it could be organized.
Yeah.
And I think what you're putting on the table is that you don't have any backup, or there's no plan for replacing you when you decide to
Right.
give that up. That's the challenge we have. Do you have any ideas of anybody that might be interested that we can approach, or should we just put out a?
Pat Golden
Oh, really?
might possibly. She's the volunteer archivist at the UCC Church in Wakefield. She's, I don't mean this disrespectfully, she's an amateur at it. She's learning on the job, which is how I started, and then I did a graduate certificate in museum studies at Tufts, and one of my placements was doing the institutional archives at Strawberry Bank back at the end of the last century, 1999 to 2002.
Obviously, it would be good for us to find someone to work with you, right? As an apprentice, that would be ideal.
Yep. There's a lot more that needs to be done to even transfer it over to somebody. Like the finding aid for what has been processed, for the records that have been processed. What I really need to do is sit down and get the finding aid for that part of it. Like this last year, I worked on subdivision plats and need to write up the finding aid for that so that if somebody's looking for a subdivision plat, if the planning board's looking for a subdivision plat, they know exactly what large flat file to go to in those files on the right-hand side when you go in. But you're right, if there was somebody who was interested, the chances of finding somebody who does this professionally as a either full-time or part-time job up in this part of the neck of the woods is pretty slim. It's one of the problems I've run into in Sandwich and in Madison. I keep on going back to help them out with different projects because they haven't been able to find anybody else. And there, as I noted in the so-called job description, there's really a certain amount of know-how that you have to have. You can't just let anybody loose with the records.
Okay. Yes, Tom?
Just one question, two questions. I'm not raising my hand to volunteer because I've done enough of that. Is this, could there be more than one assistant, for lack of a better word?
Sure, you could have I suppose you could have as many people as you wanted. You wouldn't want too many because then it would get pretty confusing.
Could one of these assistants do I won't call it a menial job, but something that didn't require an awful lot of knowledge to take some of the weight off you? Or is it so specialized you really can't do that? Probably not. You're thinking too much.
Yeah, I mean, part of the problem is the way the records came from over there to here. Somebody has to have the ability to discern page by page where this goes and whether or not it gets retained. Because literally what I have in there, and one of the things that slowed me down is I take the top off of a banker's box and there's just files that were thrown in there when they emptied out all the file drawers over there 15 years ago, 16 years ago when they moved over here, and it's still a mess.
So I think, yes, Fred.
Just out of curiosity, what do local towns like Wolfboro and Wakefield, do they have archives? Do they have this position or?
No.
So they,
The town clerk by RSA is the keeper of the records. They're responsible for maintaining the records, and what you can do is you can go over to Wakefield. I went over to Wakefield. This isn't to disparage them, but I asked for a particular book, which I had used years ago when Teresa was the town clerk, and I was told it didn't exist. Because if you look in their vault, which is right there in the town clerk's office, everything is just shoved in. There's no finding aid. There's no way. And the town clerk, Virginia doesn't know what's in there. When she gets a question, she calls me because I've organized it. She should know to some degree. If there was a finding aid, she would know then, and she should be able to respond to a request. But a lot of towns haven't done anything. I went to one local town as a consultant, and all their stuff was down in the basement, sitting on metal shelves with no order to it at all. And one of the things in the age of 91A is that you have to be able to provide access. You have to be able to retrieve documents within 5 days or come up with a good excuse for why you can't retrieve them.
I guess what I'd like to propose is that we put something on our website advertising the position. Before we approach anyone, we advertise the position, see if we can get any response. And if we don't get a response, if we get a response, we can pursue that. If we don't, we'll do some work in the back.
okay.
Yeah,
All right?
fine. Good idea.
Can you just digitize and scan those things? And then do keyword searches?
As of last year, the legislature has allowed for digitalization of town records. Up until last year, permanent records aren't allowed to be digitalized. They have to be either on microfilm or in paper. I've yet to see any towns, and Ed may know better than I, any towns that are doing the digitalization. I still don't understand it because what they're talking about is basically PDFs, but you still have to store it in some way that it's accessible.
The storage piece would be easy.
Right, on a flash drive or anything like that, yeah. Yeah. Personally, I'm against digitalizing. And especially in a town like this that's so small, it would take as long to digitalize as it is to process the minutes from the Board of Selectmen first 12 months. It takes me 15 minutes, maybe half an hour to do that. What would be interesting to digitalize would be the planning board cases. You know, and to have particularly all the plats digitalized so that you didn't have to have, you know, flat racks that accommodate 24 by 36 inch plats. So some stuff could be done, but a lot of it I think would really be overkill.
I'm just trying to think of like from a sorting standpoint. I've done a couple of projects like with archive in a different way, but
Yeah.
if you keyword search, you could find anything. Like you digitize it and it wouldn't matter in what order. You could just load it and then search for particular keywords. You could say, I want the whole.
Yeah.
Okay, let's,
Just one little quick, isn't it true, Craig, that the great bulk of it is in cursive? It's not only since, when did we start having the 20s? When did they start having actually typewriters?
Well,
So there's a pattern recognition issue too with all the cursive material.
sure. You would, I think what David's referring to though is you wouldn't, I don't think you'd go back and try to deal with all the past records. What you would do is you'd start now with a particular process like that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the information, and we'll
Yeah.
see what we can do moving forward.
Good.
Let's go back to the forest fire equipment discussion. It started 2 weeks ago with Brad coming to the selectmen asking for a purchase order system, or purchase order to start buying equipment. We shared with Brad that there was some discussion at the town meeting that maybe we should have a committee, and we settled on a review of the proposal tonight. But we heard a lot of input. It's now up to the Board of Selectmen to decide what we're gonna do with this one. Yes, Richard?
In that meeting tonight, there was a lot of information shared from Brad and from the people that attended. And at this point, I think purchasing equipment is not the first thing we need to do. We need to look into possible coverage from our neighbors that supply other services to us and insurance.
Okay. Ryan, you have any input?
My only concern is at the town meeting, the town voted for us to buy that equipment. I don't think it's a bad idea to look into alternatives, but I'm just questioning what the townspeople voted on at the town meeting.
Well, I think the town meeting authorized the expenditure, but we have to approve it and make the expenditure, so.
I don't doubt that, but it was predicated upon the purchase of the equipment. It was pretty clear it wasn't for this nebulous what ifs, it was to purchase these items. And that was more or less what the town asked for.
My feeling is I think there's I think there's some opportunities, to maybe go a different direction with respect to the forestry equipment and see if we can get it protection from Wakefield. You know, I chatted with the chief and he said there's no responsibility, but maybe that's just the financial responsibility. Maybe we can put that as part of the contract and have them cover it and get rid of all the equipment. I mean, maybe it's gonna go that way.
How does the warrant read? Is there a warrant on it?
Number 18.
Yeah, it's before that.
To see if the town will vote to establish forest fighting equipment expendable trust fund and raise and appropriate $10,000 to be deposited in this trust fund.
That's just put the money in the bank.
All right.
That's what that said, right?
I'm just saying, forest fighting equipment expendable trust fund. You're talking about mutual aid options and insurance. That's not what that warrant's giving the money for.
No, that warrant, the way I hear it is, put the money in the bank for forest fire equipment, and we have to spend it if we wanna go that direction.
Right, but what I'm saying is, insurance and contracts with Wakefield is not what that money's meant for.
That's right.
Okay, I was making sure that was clear.
That's right.
Okay, because I don't want to spend that money on a premium or,
That's not what that says.
right, we're supposed to buy equipment. If we're not in the position right now to buy it, okay, but I don't want to spend that money on
That's
something
right.
like premium or something like that.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right. That's for equipment if we're gonna spend it.
okay.
So, do we wanna make a motion to move forward with something, or are we just gonna? We gonna have an action item out of this?
Well, there's some smaller items on there that I don't think are totally unfounded. The gear for the personnel. We have 5 wardens. I don't think that's something we should hold up on. I understand there's reservation about trucks and pumps and whatnot. But there are some small items on there that I think we should act on now. Again, I said a reservation about larger pieces of capital that we don't want, but
Can we break it up?
Hmm?
Can we break it
Oh,
up?
definitely, oh, yeah.
I'll entertain a motion that we table the majority of the list, less the PPE, until we explore other options that could benefit the town.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay. 5 pieces, 5 sets of PPE, I think it was. And which one of us will be going over to talk to Wakefield?
Some of the fire experience.
That's a few decades ago, fella.
You get the fire list thing that, I don't know.
I lost my fire list thing.
Yeah, mine.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was yours?
You can have mine.
Oh, I got one back. Right off the table.
Now, I'm gonna go back and raise another motion. I'd also like to consider purchasing the hand tools, backpack pumps, and headlamps. I think those 3 items would be $850, would be an additional $1,000 for those. Now we've outfitted 5 people to at least backpack water and headlamps and the hand tools, which I think are, again, items that are not in the pump breadth. So I guess I'm gonna make a motion that we also, in addition to the PPEs, the 2 sets of hand tools for $400, the backpack pumps for $450, and 5 headlamps for a total of $150. That'd be $1,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Wait, well, okay. Any discussion, any more discussion? Yes, go ahead, Brad.
I'd just like to ask that line 4225 be considered in entirety as it's presented. Hold off on the capital items and just provide all the operating equipment.
I don't think we're ready to do that. That's my opinion.
Well, that's just the bottom list of items, that's all. It's basically what you've already approved.
So the additional item would be the forestry hose. The truck repair, we
He
also,
wants to take
No,
all
it's
that.
just under 40,
Oh, I'm sorry.
everything down the
oh, I see.
We're not saying no to that right now, we're just not spending any money on it. What we're saying is, the motion was for the PPE, the hose,
No, I didn't include the hose yet.
it was for the crew.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the crew outfitted, that's what I'm trying to do.
That's the motion I seconded.
That's right.
Crew outfit.
That's right.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Okay, so you're gonna get, that's the list.
So we'll get everything on the list except for the hose and the truck repair.
Yes.
Okay.
On that bottom section.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna do meeting minutes. Oh, let me go back. I guess, I'm gonna go talk to the chief?
Yep.
Yep, is that what you said? Sure. Okay. All right.
So could I ask a
Yes.
question as treasurer? I assume this is coming out of the regular operating budget versus any warrant article money?
That's right.
Okay,
Well, that's the way it was.
just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we have meeting minutes from April 11th.
They looked good when I read them earlier. I'll make a motion to accept the April 11th minutes as drafted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have one from the 22nd, which was this past Saturday down on Bryce Drive.
I'll make a motion to accept the April 22nd minutes as drafted.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Any public comments?
Yes,
Yes.
Tim Strauss, 128 Moose Mountain Road. I'm inquiring as to what the road maintenance schedule is for Moose Mountain Road, specifically from Tumble Down Dick to 139 Moose Mountain Road. It's pretty severely deteriorated. I didn't know if that was on the plan of work for the town this summer.
It's on the plan this summer.
Are you talking about paving this thing or pothole fixing and?
Turning it into dirt.
Tell me what the plan
Right
is.
now,
This is pretty bad.
It's turning into dirt all by itself.
Right now, it's not on the schedule for this upcoming year. Bryce Drive and other small projects are. The Moose Mound is,
Next, I think it's next.
I thought it was,
isn't
it was next year. That was one of our major undertakings because we needed to rebuild that capital reserve. But I'll defer to Eddie as the road agent as to what kind of Band-Aids we can put on until that time.
Sure.
We basically just fill the potholes until we have money.
Mm-hmm.
But we may end up, at some point with a very large load of coal patch left over and not know what to do with it, which we could spread over a very large area.
Mm-hmm.
The way we've been working road issues is we have a bank account, a trust fund. And we've been putting in $75,000 a year. Last year, we pulled that trust fund down because we had a very big paving job on Stoneham, with the strategy of going light this year to build it back up. So we were talking 30,000 coming out, 75 going in.
Mm-hmm.
That was the rationale behind scheduling it the way it was scheduled. I'll throw this out. Ed knows where I'm going. Is dirt better? Is dirt better for a year? I mean, we can put,
You could grind it, right?
you can grind it?
No,
What do you think? You don't think so?
it's currently a paved road.
Yeah?
It was on the schedule, but it got pushed out because of price drag, correct?
No, Stoneham.
Stone.
We put 100,000 into Stoneham last year.
Okay, so it's still on the schedule for resurface, correct?
The 2018.
So this year, especially the areas Tim mentioned, I went up and inspected it.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's really bad potholes. So right now it's dangerous, so we gotta fix that. And like Eddie said, a possibility of having extra material at some point this summer to shim the rest of it.
But that won't be till later.
Well, it won't be till later, but what would the schedule be, Ed, for the potholes to start with?
I mean, I can purpose to go out and get a quantity of material to, and I hate to use the term potholes for that area, because it's just deterioration.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's really no given holes, it's just a sectional road that has pulverized itself or something, I don't know. But it's probably 40 feet long, by the width of the road, it's just horrible. I think the quickest, least expensive way to handle that is to just shim that section.
We're talking about from approximately your sugar house to
No, I wouldn't even
Baker?
go that far. I would go from roughly the Baker's driveway,
Yeah,
about what, 40, I think about 40 feet. I mean, it's a very definitive section that's gone.
from
The rest
Baker's
of
to
the
Stra,
road-
from
the rest
Baker's
of
to
the-
Straws?
I don't know if it
That
goes
way?
quite to your driveway, if out of memory.
Almost, it's
But
very
it's,
close, yeah.
like I said, it's pretty definitive. what
That
that's-
flat section,
Yes.
Yep, it's flat, it's
where it
right,
looks like it's been bombed out.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It looks like the potholes have merged together and become, but anyways, as far as the rest of that section, the old section of the road, I just think we can live with it. I know the edges are crumbling in and it seems to be narrow at some point, but with the intention of grinding it and putting gravel down and new pavement next year, I think it's not a roughness issue,
Right.
it's just that the pavement's crumbling away.
I think that will make it, except the section we just talked about, and further down towards Moose Mountain, there is one portion by the shoulder that's deep enough to push traffic or a passerby out into the other lane of traffic, so perhaps that could be
That would
filled as well.
probably get, I don't travel that road like I used to, but that would be handled along with our routine pothole patch. We do catch the edges of the road where it's very bad or disrupts traffic.
What's on the schedule for remainder of this week and early next? Can we make this a more immediate action item?
I can, I can't put a date on it yet. I've been waiting an awful long time for parts for my truck. It's been out there broken and it's in. I'm going to go get it tomorrow and hopefully I can have it back and running by the weekend.
How much are we talking, Ed? Dollar-wise? Dollar-wise? What do you think? Yeah, it's your job too.
Jeez. I'll get back to you when you call me. How's that?
All right. I got your number. I think, it's a valid concern. Maybe we're just not putting enough money away every year to stay ahead of the road maintenance. I mean, we're locked in this year, but maybe next year it's time.
Well, we know Moose Mountain was on the
Yep,
critical list. It was
Yeah.
just, we were trying to look at the more traveled roads and we just wanted to rebuild. And
maybe it's time to rebuild a little faster. Maybe.
yeah, the Moose Mountain is happening next year. Hold your breath. It's coming.
So do we just have to do a motion to push this up ahead of the schedule, or is he
No,
just
no,
gonna?
he's gonna do it. The big question is how much it's gonna cost, where we're gonna get the money from. Yes, Rob?
So I noticed on my way over here that Clark is getting pretty rough, and Clark was redone some number of years ago. I mean, but that was, if I recall correctly, that was one of the first roads to be rebuilt. And I don't know if that was 9, 10, 11 years ago, but
Got to get them out.
it's getting pretty rough. So to your point about what, are we going fast enough? Clark? it's getting-
About 18 years, no, I'm sorry, 17 years ago.
Clark Road?
No, it's been a while. It was.
It wasn't a total rebuild, it was a shim and pave.
Okay.
And it got a lot of seam work done last year on it.
So your point, Rob,
Well,
is,
it's a little bit rough now, and it's certainly passable. It's better than a lot of our roads were for a long time, right now. But, to your point, I'm not sure what our plan would be for getting back to Clark, how bad it's gonna be, if it's 4 or 5 years out. Like, how bad is it gonna be? And if it's gonna be really bad, maybe we should be thinking about trying to do a little bit more.
Yep.
If it's gonna be fine, then maybe we're right on the
Well,
right path.
the one after Moose Mountain is Pike Brook, which is in rough shape as well. Pike Brook's the one after Moose Mountain. And then I think the schedule's clear at that point. We hit all the major projects, so at that point, we're gonna need to get an assessment of what now needs to go onto the new list. And Clark would definitely be one of them, I would say. It's just a triage, you're trying to hit the ones that are the worst, you know?
Ed, yes.
So again, putting me under pressure, roughly $2,500 to
Oh,
fix that
fine.
section of road.
Fine. It's not 30, not
Oh,
30.
gosh, no.
Okay.
No. And then my second comment, fortunately, the bottom half of Moose Mountain is acting just like Clark. And I believe it was treated the same way as shim and pave. So there was it didn't deal with the structure,
What does shim and pave mean?
meaning instead of grinding it and reshaping it and adding gravel, it was the old, what I call farmer's mix, which is the section of road that we're talking about on Moose Mountain. Very thin, it relies upon a petroleum product penetrating sand and then spread out rather than put down with a machine. But anyways, what you're traveling on now is applied on top of that, rather than grinding, reshaping, and dealing with it that way.
And that's what we do today.
That's what we do.
We grind the old
We take a
blacktop.
section of road, we grind it up, we lift it up, we shape it, and then repave it.
So which roads haven't had that done to them at least once?
That section of Moose Mountain, Pike Brook, and the Wakefield end of Garney. That was shimmed also, because that was by far the worst road we had in town at the time.
But Clark was rebuilt, or I thought you said it wasn't rebuilt?
No, it was not.
So just because it sounds like we're gonna still be rebuilding, probably.
Oh, yeah, this doesn't end. When we get through pavement, a paved road, 15 years, they consider the far end of its lifespan without treatment, maintenance-wise. Even properly done paved roads, 10 to 15 years. Before they need something else, either to be resurfaced again or anything else. And from my perspective, the reason I push for grinding, shaping, and adding gravel is because once we get through that phase, when it comes time to do something, you're talking a 3/4 inch or a 1 inch overlay, so your tonnage goes that much further, goes 3 times as far. So we could be, in the sense of either foot or miles, you can cover a lot more mileage or footage per ton of asphalt.
So which roads still need to be rebuilt?
In my opinion, Moose Mountain, Clark, Moose Mountain,
And Pike.
Clark, Pike, and Garney. At least half of Garney, if not more.
Okay. Thank you. Sounds like we're gonna take $2,500 worth of patch. Give or take a little.
Save your rims.
Any other public comment? Okay. Treasurer report. Hello.
So, cash in the bank between all of the accounts, we currently have a little over $603,957. What I'm looking at for bills by June, just the 2 biggest ones are currently $324,000 of that. So that includes $253,000 to the school and another $70,000 to the town of Wakefield. So we're looking fairly good for this time of year, but we still will have to see what comes up. I have mailed the payroll tax returns that are due for the first quarter. And I also, even though they don't think so, since they wrote us another letter, have responded to the United States Census report for the Department of Commerce. do it online and give them all our information. I do it every year or two for them. I do have 2 checks to sign and bills for later. I think that's it for me, but I know I'm forgetting something.
You have a letter or something, a proposal?
Well, I have many things to sign, and I did not do that.
Okay. Hey, that's it then.
That's it then.
Tax collector is not here, deputy doesn't have anything.
I know what one thing was. I have the tax lien check for tonight. So for Diana's to do the tax lien on the properties for this year. So that's one of the checks you'll sign tonight, and then I'll leave it for her.
The way that works is when people owe the town money and it goes to lien, we make the loan. We sign the check. So we're making a loan to the town, and when the people pay their tax or we deed the property, we get the money back. That's what that transaction's all about. Administrative assistant, Laura, you have anything?
Just a couple quick things. The person coming from virtual town hall to talk about the website.
Yes.
I contacted them and they are available to come for the next meeting.
The second meeting in May.
Yes. Whatever the date was you asked me to schedule for.
The second meeting in May.
Yeah.
Okay,
May
good.
23rd.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's all set. And just a reminder that, Brian, you have Saturday hours this month.
Okay, thank you.
Exciting. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Planning board,
I didn't attend the meeting,
Oh.
so you have to.
Yeah, that's right.
you got anything to report from the
No.
planning? Okay.
Oh,
Code-
yes, wait,
Oh, yes.
back up. Planning board appointed a new member, Phil Ziadi,
Okay,
and the planning board got a new alternate, Tim Strauss.
oh, good, good, thank you.
So we're getting more participation from people in the town, hooking up.
Excellent, thank you, Rick. Code enforcement, Ed?
Couple of intent to excavate. Same 2 every year.
You know what these are, right? These are for
Gravel pit?
the 2 pits in town, that's right. That are grandfathered.
Time next month for a planning board inspection again.
There you go.
And this is the Smith Pit. I don't know what it's called today.
You're really bright, Eddie. It's nice.
I just want to make sure I'm seen. What am I doing?
Can't miss you, buddy.
And then, if I can talk while you gentlemen sign?
Sure.
Okay. I have some paperwork that I left in the office, and I grabbed the wrong stuff, I'll be right back. So, we did timber tax for the Charles Warren Broderick Trust, and I got an email, we sent it out, and I got an email from the trustee questioning it. So I went back through it, and it seems that we grabbed the wrong. Every year, the state puts out the average in 3 different districts, northern, central, and southern New Hampshire. And the price, the printout that we're supposed to use has to coincide between the dates that the cut was finished and the dates of that report that they give. And I grabbed the wrong one, so I called her, and she said she had made the check out but hadn't sent it, so I told her to hold on to it and I'll refigure it. I told her what the problem was, and actually in the second half of last year, it went down. The average timber stumpage values went down, and it affected her by $457 or $400 and some odd dollars. So we recalculated it. So I have to have you sign another one of the warrants and the assessments for that. I already called her, told her what the change was. She was very happy. She had no more questions about it, and we want to get this out. And I told her it would be tonight that I'd have these signed. So that's what these two are.
When people log, the town gets 10% of its stumpage value. That's what this is about.
Unless you're a maple sugar operation.
10%. You log. Wait, unless you're a farmer, you
Get
mean?
some backup.
Yeah, he's correct.
What's that?
No tax on firewood for maple syrup production.
10 cords, right? Or really, no
No,
limit,
it
no limit,
is
no limit.
No limit on sugar.
Really?
10 cords for personal use.
Yes, been there.
Yes, yep. But with maple syrup production, it's
Really? That's good.
highest limit.
Good to know. You know all about that, huh?
That's a, had a good teacher.
Who, Ed?
Yeah.
Can't say nothing. Oh, let's not get them mixed up.
No, that's
I'll
11.
No, we just been shuffling.
Yeah, but there's two of them.
Yeah, but that's $1,100 on that one and.
2 timbers.
I didn't sample.
You gotta sign this one too.
Oh, wait a second.
There's $1,100 on that one and
Yeah, you need that one.
$2,300 on this one. Ballpark the numbers, 2,300, 1,100.
Keep them together so we don't mix it up. Yeah, I'll do those right.
Excellent. And that's about it for code officer. I have
Okay.
something else.
And I have, go
The
ahead.
bridge stuff, do you wanna
Yeah,
cover
we
that?
wanna
right
do
quick?
bridge.
Okay. So I have,
Tell us what we're talking about. Please.
the bridge at Moose Mountain Road over Hanson Brook needs some attention. So we've solicited bids to have somebody come out and first thing we did, we approved an engineering study. So we had an engineering study done on the bridge, and based upon that study, we solicited some bridge contractors to come out to see what their opinion was, not so much to get a price, but to see what, none of them were interested in repairing the bridge. And they made some claims that I understand from them personally, but in the business I couldn't accept. Meaning, they didn't want to repair it because, well, who's gonna put a stamp on that? I'm not gonna put my stamp on a repair, I wanna put a new bridge in. And I think the new bridge cost roughly started at 300,000.
It went up.
And that was the bottom one. So then we went back and talked with the person who did the engineering firm who did the study, and they are willing to put their stamp on everything, and they projected the repairs to be,
With or without the deck?
well, the first one was with just fixing the existing bridge the way it was. And then, the problem with that is that bridge tapers 3 feet from one end to the other. So depending on which way you're coming onto the bridge, you can enter the bridge as a double lane road, but you have to exit it as a single lane. It makes for some pretty scary driving at times. And my thought was, if we're gonna put that money into that bridge and fix it and get it good, we need a new deck and make it the right width all the way across. So we recontacted the engineering firm through this long drawn-out process, and we got an estimate to do all the engineering for the work needed. And that's what we're dealing with tonight.
And that would be, the goal would be to do that this year,
Repair the abutments,
just do the engineering work this year,
to just do the engineering work this year.
and to get the permits.
The general rule of thumb is it's a 2-year process. It takes an entire year to get the data and the engineering done, and then get through the permit process with the state, and that gives you a year to get the work done. So we're trying to get that going. And we have a price to do all the engineering of $26,500, which I think is reasonable compared to what some of those other people wanted. So here, you need to take a look at this, because I found, and I just got this tonight. It was in tonight's mail, I cruised it. I have one thing I don't want you to sign it tonight.
We want to look at it
I want you to
first.
look at
Yep.
it. I think it's a very simple thing that they just didn't put it in, and you might help out of your memory. Was the cost of that engineering study $3,000? Do you remember?
Don't remember.
As you'll see when you look this over, it shows original contract of $3,000, but it doesn't say it was paid, because we did pay them for that engineering study. Did we not, Ms. Treasurer? Okay, so that's something to look into.
I'll
We have
look into
we have to look into that, because otherwise I don't know what they're saying, and I just need clarification for that.
Okay, so they're billing us again, is what you're saying?
They could be.
It looks like it.
Or
That's what they're trying
where
to
it's
do.
in bold, is that a statement saying, you know, come on, original contract, pay me? Or is it saying that that was the start of our business with them and that's already been paid?
Yep, don't understand, well,
But take a copy of it and look it over. There's one of these is your copy anyways.
would you please give it to Laura?
But it just describes everything we had originally talked about, the abutments, the wing walls, and then we added a new deck, completely new deck. So it would involve tearing the deck off and straightening it out, putting a brand new deck on. Okay?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Does it include road work approaching the bridge from both sides?
Not the engineering. When they engineer the bridge, the road work will have to match it. Yeah, they're just gonna,
Will the bridge lower?
I believe it's gonna lower because the deck is roughly 3 feet thick, because it was an encasement and an overlay to the existing bridge. And I'm pretty sure that was what the engineer's comment was when I met him out there a year and a half ago or whatever it was. It's been a long time we've been working at this, so I can't remember exactly, but I know the elevation will change.
Can I ask you another question?
Sure.
We're looking to do Moose Mountain paving next year. This bridge construction would be going on, would it be coinciding, or would we have to get the bridge done first, or?
Well, because of taking the deck off, they can't be done at the same time.
Right. So
So,
bridge is
and
good.
it's not important which one gets done first.
Okay, all right, that's what I was
No.
getting at.
No, because how this will go down is when it comes time, all the prep work, I won't say all, but most of all the prep work can be done without any disruption to the flow. But when it comes time to put the new deck on, a temporary bridge will be put in off to the side, single lane. The deck will be ripped off and a new deck put on, but that'll be after all the other repair work is done.
All right, so we're in the stage of the bridge going in, we can't pave.
No, because that temporary.
Temporary is not gonna hold
Well,
it, and it's not wide enough.
You know, the repair work probably to the abutment and the wing walls could probably be going on. The critical thing is when you
The
take
deck.
the deck off, those trucks aren't going across
The temporary bridge.
you know,
that's
it's gonna be a single lane bridge and it's gonna have a weight limit on it.
Right.
And.
So I'm just trying to think
traffic.
of, we're gonna need to coordinate this, because,
Yes, and we're gonna have to well in advance plan it so that we can tell all the residents on the other side of the bridge that, look,
you can't
this,
come down the hill.
this is gonna be vehicular passenger traffic only.
Right.
Single lane,
For deliveries and whatnot. they're gonna-
Yeah, tell your, you know, I don't,
Your logger.
your logger, you're right, I'm trying to think of an example, on who would.
Your logger.
Logger, if you want gravel for your driveways or whatever it is, that's not gonna happen.
What
during
about
that
fuel
period.
deliveries?
What's that?
Fuel deliveries, like oil and stuff.
That's a good question. We'll have to see what the ratings on those bridges are.
Okay.
Brad, you have a question?
Yeah, Wakefield's fire trucks run around 50,000 pounds.
Okay.
All right, so we'll figure this all out, I guess.
Do we have enough right of way there to do this work, or do we have to approach, you don't have to
That's
answer
a
me
good
now?
question.
It's gonna have to be on the uphill side, upper.
Upstream side, that's where it was when that bridge was repaired and fixed up, that's where it was the last time, on the uphill side.
Okay, if you just look at the right of way. And one for you, did you ever have a chance to talk to the Eversource engineer?
I just told him that there was some changes coming down the road, and I didn't have the authority to do that at that time when I talked to him. So beyond our conversation the other day, I have not talked to him since Saturday.
So we have an issue with a pole license.
Yeah.
Where you can either approve it or reject it. You know, I guess we're looking for a recommendation because
I think, honestly, I think they gotta move it. I would reject the license.
would you talk to your counterpart first, please?
Sure.
Let them know what's coming,
Yep,
and we can reject it.
Because, you know, I mean, he's a nice enough guy, but when I approached him about this subject, about them just willy-nilly putting these poles in and applying for licenses, he gave me this. Now, we just got the license, how long has that pole been in there?
Months.
Months? It's been
Yeah.
over a year.
Over, I don't know, I just know it's been a long time.
So you tell him we're gonna reject it, so he knows, and then we'll do it.
While we're on poles, and we're dealing with licenses and everything else, has anybody ever considered, we have a section of road that there is a third power company on, and that would be Pleasant Valley Road
Well, Wolfboro's up
with
there.
Wolfboro Power. Because I know they just replaced a pole up there because they had an accident with it, so.
And your point is?
Well, if we're coming down on Eversource to make sure they have their licenses in order and they're doing things the way they should be, then we need to make sure it's only fair that we make everybody else toe the line also. And have we ever got a pole license from Brookfield Power? Not that I,
This is the first one, this is the first one I can remember, ever.
yeah, well, no, they come quite often,
Oh, they do?
yeah,
Okay.
so,
All right, thank you. You tell them we'll reject it.
okay.
Okay, conservation, Tom?
Had the roadside cleanup Saturday. We had at least 16 people signed up. They unloaded at least 100 pounds of recyclable stuff over at the transfer station.
They waited this year.
Yeah, and most of that was aluminum cans, so you can imagine how many there were. But it went well, a lot of people participated. Got a lot of junk cleaned up. We didn't do the state highways, the state's supposed to do them. Hope they will.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for pulling that together, yes. Heritage Commission, you have anything to report?
Nothing.
Okay.
We could say thank you to the selectmen for breakfast Saturday.
You're welcome. Was a lot of fun. It was fun. Wasn't it fun?
Yes, you are.
Shake your head, yes.
It was fun. It wasn't bad at all. It was fun. Nice to see everybody. Cemetery, Tom, you have anything on the cemetery?
The cemetery trustees have committed to a contract with a local resident who's gonna mow the new cemetery this summer.
New sign?
Pardon?
Sign?
Yeah,
No, you got a new sign?
no, the new sign on the old cemetery, which is now officially the Brookfield Historic Burying Ground.
That's the old
What
cemetery.
used to be the only cemetery.
That's right. Okay, anything else? Oh, we got a couple of things, yes.
Other boards and commissions, the ZBA met in a business meeting last week, And Paul Tremblay is going to remain as chairman, and I'm now vice chairman.
And along those lines, we have to appoint 2 members to the ZBA. And Paul Tremblay and Richard Mauser are the candidates if we want to approve them.
I make a motion, we accept the recommendation of Paul Tremblay and Richard Mauser as ZBA select members.
To 20 years, it's a 3-year term to 2020.
So they're willing?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's a motion. Anything else, Brian? I saw another hand. Yes.
Services Committee.
Yes, somebody's gonna talk to that. Who's,
Sorry.
I'll take that. So the committee that the board formed at the last meeting met twice, met on the 17th and the 24th of this month, and we'll be meeting again on the 8th, and the reason that I'm speaking is that I was elected the chair. Last night, we did a couple of things, one of which was we officially adopted a name, which is now the Services Review Committee, and we established a goal or mission, not quite sure how we left that, and that is to provide the Board of Selectmen background and options regarding services paid for by Brookfield taxpayers. And we have the 3 members that were identified at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, myself, Rick Surrette, and Rob Collins, and another person has come to the meeting and has asked to join, and I don't know what the protocol is, if we just say, yes, you're part of it, or do we ask the Board of Selectmen to add another member?
we should appoint her to the committee, her or he?
Her. Yes, that's correct. And I would ask that you appoint Catherine Collins to the committee.
Okay.
We also have had 3 other persons come as members of the public to listen and actually participate, which has been very helpful. And the last thing I wanted to point out was that in my continuing research, I found that I had misspoken about a statistic that I had previously used to express my concern about the financial arrangements that we have with the town of Wakefield. And I had cited part of our own document. It was the 2014 annual report, in which the Wakefield transfer station information was listed, and it had included a number for both expenditures and revenues. And when you do the math, it ended up being $70,000 difference with more expenditures than revenues. And I took that to be the number for the entire cost of the operation of the transfer station. And it turns, I learned last week that, I learned Monday, that was not correct, that those numbers referred only to their commodities, basically, what it costs them to send out for expenses to dispose of the commodities of the trash, and then the revenue reflected the numbers for the recyclables that they were able to sell. So I had made an error in that regard, and I wanted to, since I had used that argument at town meeting and I'd expressed that argument previously to other people, I wanted to make sure that people understood that I had misunderstood what those numbers really indicated in our town report. So I apologize. That said, in the process of continuing my investigation, I uncovered some additional concerns that we will be bringing to the Board of Selectmen as well, with regard to Wakefield numbers. And I would also add that we're not just focusing on Wakefield. This is a larger issue, And there's agreement amongst the committee members and interest to review and, as I had said earlier, to provide background and options to the Board of Selectmen in a variety of different areas for matters of services that are paid for by Brookfield taxpayers.
I got a question. Thank you, I got a question. We pay about $70,000 for the dump, and that's the number you used, I think there, about 70,000. But there was another number you quoted, was that revenue? What was the other number? Your number you just used tonight?
Just tonight, revenue and expenses. The number, and it turns out, and these were the only time, this was the only time since 2011 when any number appeared on this page in our town report for the transfer station. The expenses that year were $207,548, and the revenues were almost $137,000. So, again, when I'm done.
We didn't.
But those are just recycling numbers. Those do not represent the number that gets the total cost that we are then paying a portion of. That's on that spreadsheet that they use for their calculations.
It doesn't show the revenue.
And not only does it not show the revenue, but this number is only a subset of those costs.
Okay. Understand, thank you.
Make a motion that we appoint Catherine Collins to the Services Committee.
Okay.
Rob, is that okay with you,
Absolutely.
All right, I'll second the motion then.
No more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Say no,
I have something just to be put onto the website. It's from the trustees of the trust fund, and it's their investment policy statement for this year. So if you put that on the appropriate place on the trustees of the trust fund, that would be super.
This-
Yeah, we're gonna go down the agenda. Accounting, we met with the accounting company firm. We haven't talked about that yet, have we?
No.
No. Okay, they came in, we had our kickoff meeting within the past 2 weeks. They met with the tax collector and with the town clerk. They briefly talked to the selectmen. They were here for, I would say, a couple of hours. They wanted to get information from the treasurer, the QuickBook data, and you've been in communication with Scott
Yes,
and trying to set up that transfer of data.
yes, we were to meet last week and he canceled 2 hours before the meeting was to be.
Your plan is to go to his office?
So my plans are to go to his office and we're rescheduling that appointment.
Okay. The other questions that were raised was, who else touches money in town? I said the code enforcement officer. Yeah, I think that was it. No one else touches money on the input side. And we take care of the money on the output side.
George, on the planning board, receives checks.
You're right.
And also
Any
the
application?
ZBA secretary also.
Okay. We will add those two income sources.
There's a potential that the supervisors of the checklist will receive money too.
Okay, no, okay, we will tell them about it. I'm not sure how far they'll go. I mean, the monies we're talking in those spaces are not 4 or 5 digits, right?
We
So
get
that
$25.
$25? Yeah. So we'll look at it, we'll tell them about it. They're gonna give us a written report as they work through these issues, and we'll share that report with the town. We talked about the update on the Moose Mountain Bridge. Update on a town office building proposal, I got the quote. It's the same individual that did the schoolhouse and the townhouse, and this quote is for $11,266. $300 a square. Now, they have the wrong shingles down. They've got the architectural shingles. We don't have those, we have the simple tabs, but that's not gonna significantly change this numbers. You know, this is, so,
It could.
what's it gonna be, $50 a square? Oh, we can ask, we'll ask. When I opened this up, I said, we've got to get another,
Another estimate.
yeah, 300. I think the whole job over there was 12.
Yeah, that seems way higher than what I was expecting, at least.
Yeah, that job was 12. We thought 8 for this is small, it's one level, and it comes in at 11, and it's, he measured at 34 squares. I assume he can measure correctly, at $300 a square. Includes everything. Take the old one off, put the new one on, and 30-year IKO architectural shingles, and we don't use those here. We use the single tab.
Right.
What do we need? It's gotta be the first roof.
Yeah.
Building's
Yeah.
only
Why
17
do we need to
years
take
old.
the old roof off?
Why do we need to take the old roof off?
Did you look at the back roof? You can't pave over that. You can't shingle over that.
And it's truly the best way to do it.
It is so beat on the sunny side.
I'm not a fan of going over. It's not good.
That does not include dealing with the bell tower. And Gary Ciccarone, who has been working this for us, thought the estimate for that was $3,500 because you gotta get up there.
Scaffold, yes.
Yeah. So, well, let's hold on this. If you're gonna make a phone call, you make a phone call, I'll make a phone call, let's get some other numbers. Let's assume it's 34 squares, because that's what he quoted, 300 a square. Let's just check the number to see if it's a reasonable number. The fellow did all right work. Okay. I'm sorry, Diane, yes.
When was this building constructed?
2000.
2000.
Finished.
So, was there a warranty on these shingles?
Oh, there might be, but they prorated so much.
Okay.
More than likely a 3-tab shingle 17 years ago. There was still a 15-year shingle, which is a very popular shingle. And if that's what he used, we've got all our money out of him.
One more question. I thought that at one point, and I had some discussion or was around it, that pointed out that the wear was uneven, or the deterioration was uneven, even on the front part. And I'm wondering if there was an engineering issue that might need to be addressed to prevent that from happening again. Had anyone in their review of the project?
I think you'll find most of that is because of Mother Nature.
Water runoff.
The west-facing side that gets all the afternoon sun, invariably the shingles curl before the east-facing side.
I understand that, and I get that. But I thought that even on this side, on the north-facing side, or the east-facing side, whichever, that there was some different deterioration rates. And I just, that hadn't been addressed at all. Okay.
Yeah, well, we can ask them when they show up to give us a quote.
Okay. Because if we're, I guess, if there's something that we might do to prolong that in the section that deteriorated faster.
I understand. Maybe we can do it differently next time.
We want to do that.
Yep. Yes, Ed?
Not a question, but a statement to answer her question. It's due to the fact on this side, what Tom said is very true. On this side, you have this big tree right on the corner that actually provides shade to this side of the building.
Okay.
And that's why you have the different
Okay.
reaction in the shingles. So if it happened in a roof that was out in the wide open, then there would be cause for concern.
Okay, thank
But the
you.
only answer is to cut the tree down.
And it's an ash, and I tried to get it cut down because they're all dying because of the ash borer. So I talked to the power company about it potentially jeopardizing the wires.
Nice try. Is that before or after we tell them we're gonna use it?
Nice try is what he said. They have to die first, but the ash trees are going.
Yeah.
Yes, Tom?
Quote for the shingle and for drippage and
Yep.
ice barrier.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Yes, it does all that. It's complete, clean up, but it's 300 a square. Okay, the other old business is we picked up a letter, again, from the Conservation Commission 2 weeks ago about issues with respect to the town land and what they want us to consider. I had an opportunity to chat with the police that came in one night to one of our meetings. As far as ATVs and fires are concerned, even though it's town-owned land, you're not allowed to use an ATV on it unless you have written permission from the town. You're not allowed to build a fire on it unless you have a fire permit from the fire warden.
And written permission from the owner.
And written permission from the owner, absolutely, for fire permits. So those rules exist today. Do we want to do anything in addition? Do we want to post those rules so people know them? Do we have, what's your take on something like that?
Well, it's a list that can continue to grow if we want to post every single thing.
Yeah, yes.
There's already rules against it. I don't think it needs to be posted.
Okay. You have any?
What's orient sharing?
I think it's supposed to be orienteering.
Geocache.
Yeah, geocaching, that stuff.
Oh.
I mean, most of these things are allowed. Is the issue, I mean, hiking, picnicking, hunting, bicycling, bird watching, fishing, orienteering, tracking, trapping with permit, of course, horseback riding are all things that there's no restrictions on. Damage can be done with the ATVs and the camping and fires.
I like the rules. Well, I like what the document says. I wouldn't be opposed to a couple signs being posted. Brookfield public land, open sunrise to sunset, no power vehicles or camping permitted. Just something simplistic that no, don't do this, and we just kind of, it's at least posted. That's how we want it done. And will it deter people? Probably, if they wanted to do that, probably not, but I'd rather get that out there.
Okay. No power vehicles, no camping, no fires.
Now, there's a class 6 road that we can't keep people off, the old Governor's Road. And there's ruts down there today, so there people are going in there. But, all right, so we're gonna.
And I like the sunrise to sunset because that kind of just boxes out camping and fires and stuff because, and it's pretty, so it's a simplistic way of doing it.
Okay, we'll start with that.
All right.
The conservation.
I think the main reason it came up was the fact that it hasn't been public land before.
Right.
And a lot of things were done there that shouldn't be done. And if there's somebody who really has they want to do this, it says on there, approval by the selectmen, they can do that. And even though I didn't know that it was illegal for somebody to be on it on an ATV, and I'm sure there were people who have been on there with an ATV probably over the last 20 years.
Yeah, you're not even supposed to be on the road with the ATV.
Yeah.
Okay,
So just posting it, maybe it'll help enforce it, that's all.
Do you have the list, Lori? Did you get the list? Okay, thank you. And
So would we want to make, or have somebody make, obviously, permanent signage up there? Post it on 4x4 or something along those lines?
Here's the issue. If we're gonna make it an ordinance, we have to have a public hearing, we have to advertise it, we have to do all kinds of legal things to make that an ordinance. If we just refer to the state law, then we're okay. Per state law, ATVs are not allowed without written permission of the landowner. Fires are not permitted without written permission of the landowner. We don't need a public hearing in an ordinance.
It's already there.
What about the sunrise sunset part?
We need an ordinance. You need a hearing, you need an ordinance.
So when we post this on the kiosk, like that,
If we just, on those last two items, we put an asterisk there, per state law,
That's fine.
then.
We're not making up new rules.
Okay.
We're using the states.
So if we're gonna make a sign and put on sunrise to sunset, we should schedule a public hearing.
Hearing and posted. And I'd, it's an ordinance. I mean, you need, and there's RSA's you gotta follow.
I question whether the sunrise to sunset is enforceable. I mean, there are a bunch of RSA's that say that New Hampshire's open land, and, you know, unless it's posted every 50 feet on the border, you can use it for, you can go on there and hunt and things like that. I'm not sure, I guess I would question whether we, you know, can do some sort of time limit on it, and if we, you know, just make sure, if we want to go that route, either make sure that we know that we don't have an RSA to stand up, or that we do, right, that allows us to put that kind of restriction on it. I mean, it's fine to post stuff that you can't enforce, I guess. I mean,
Well, that's exactly right.
but I would say we shouldn't post stuff that we can't enforce.
Someone gets
but-
pinched and it doesn't go anywhere.
Right, but I think that that's kind of lame to post stuff you can't enforce. But, so I would encourage that personally, but.
Let's stick with the RSA's, the fires and the,
That's fine.
and the,
What the hell's someone to do, walk around the woods in the dark?
well, you know, they can hunt nights. People do hunt in the evening.
Is there already an ordinance in town, no camping?
You know, you can camp.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so we'll use those two. Yes, Brad?
One other thing I'd consider putting on the sign is it's a carry and carry out facility. I.e. whatever trash you bring in, you bring out.
That's fair.
That was on there. wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it's on the list. Town forest shall be carry and carry out, no trash receptacles. So, they're on it.
And if we're still talking about the town forest, the Mrs. Hunter had a relationship with Alan Frederickson and Moda Field. We're gonna continue that, have him come in, he does maintenance on the field, he takes the hay, and what the town gets is the field maintained.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
All right, we'll just make sure he knows please continue doing that.
It also means he needs motorized.
He come,
equipment
yes,
to get in and out.
that's right.
He's registered.
I mean, he's doing agriculture. The state is very, you know, lets you do agriculture.
They've given him written permission to do it.
You have a question? Yes, ma'am.
Where will these signs be placed?
There's gonna be, that's a very good question, there's gonna be two kiosks, I don't think three, I think we can place two.
Yeah, this is fine.
Governor's Road and Cottle Hill. Where?
The old Governor's Road.
Corner of
Lifer and
Life,
Governor's Road.
yeah, I would
Right,
call
right.
that Governor's, and then the one out back.
Yeah.
What's the one out back?
Governor's Road comes all the way out on Cottle Hill,
Okay.
back there.
Old Governor's Road.
Well,
Not
yeah.
to be confused with Governor's
I'm
Road.
sorry, I'm sorry, there's a road that goes through the property, it's the old Governor's Road, it's a dirt road.
Is there not frontage also on Cottle Hill for this property?
Yes, about 50 feet.
Okay,
And we're really suggesting people come in the other two ways.
I understand.
Used to live on the old
Okay,
Governor's
thank
Road.
you.
We just go with the old Governor's.
So, is there gonna be like a small clear area to park or something like that at each of those kiosks? Is that the plan?
Yes. That's under discussion.
On the one on Lyford Road.
Yeah. So they're,
2 or 3 cars maybe.
okay.
Get off the road, just get into, that's what they're talking about. I think we're gonna hit the road agent up and see what he can do.
Yeah, little gravel.
Little gravel, just make some room in there.
Push some trees over.
The Conservation Commission has a budget,
All right, we'll get right on that one then.
but they're tight.
Yeah, no. Oh, sorry.
All right, any other old business before we go to new business? Okay, new business, we have forest fire suppression pay rate. Last year we hit the forest fire and we were charged for hours by members of the fire department, and we never set the rate, so we never challenged the rate that was submitted. And I think it'd be good if we go on record and establish a rate for the forest fire people, even volunteers that go out there get paid, so we know what we're gonna be paying in the future.
Not an oxymoron, volunteer get.
Yeah, not anymore, you know, now it's all paid, that's interesting, it used to be volunteer. I'll put a number out, if you want a number to start talking about, I'd go in the area, I'd go in the area of $12 an hour.
Is that what it was, what they built?
No, they built at 15. If I remember correctly.
Yes.
What, does the state have a rate?
I don't know what it is.
Again, in my quick reading earlier of RSA 227L, there's some language in there about setting rates for exactly what you're talking about. And it mentions something about having to talk to the director of forestry or, so again, I'm a layperson, but I just read something in there about it. So you may want to refer back to that RSA before you guys.
We will hold that to,
Yeah,
we'll hold that for 2 weeks. Thank you, Fred.
Which RSA was that, Frank?
227L. And it's a long one.
Thank you.
Because it talks about the state negotiating with Canada for fighting fires on the border and all kinds of stuff. It's a long one.
Okay.
It's not L that's long, it's the 227, which goes with all of that.
Even L is still a bunch of stuff.
Oh, yes, but it's more than just L.
Okay, any other public comments?
Can I just go to one last business item?
Sure.
Can we arrange a spring, I don't know, property tour, see if there's any projects we need, anything we need to deal with?
Sure, you mean the facilities?
The facilities, we typically yearly walk the grounds and see if there's anything we need to address and stuff like that, so.
Should do here in the salt shed? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Do you want to meet 6 o'clock next meeting?
yes, I was gonna say, why don't we meet at 6 o'clock, give us a half hour to
Okay.
walk around.
Yep, see if there's any projects, anything we need to do, anything we need to move it clear or whatever.
Good, thank you.
Next time, coffee.
We just had the town breakfast, so we go another month before town coffee.
Yeah, definitely in May sometime.
Well, there's your calendar, take a look.
When's Memorial Day? 29th?
20, yeah.
29th. 13th or the 20th.
Yeah, do the 20th, give us a little more time. I don't want to do Memorial Day week, he's going to be out and about, so why don't we just do the 20th?
Okay. 8 to 10? 8 to 9:30? 8 to, you want earlier? You want later?
Oh, is that Wakefield Pride Day?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
The 20th is Wakefield Pride Day?
Typically.
Oh, that's right, I
what
wanted
is
to be in
the
town.
full Memorial?
You wouldn't even be in town.
Oh, you want to, yeah.
13th.
You guys have a good,
You want to just do, you want to do June 3rd? Just bump it up, just get out of May.
Okay. June 3rd.
8 to 10?
Are you in town?
yes, I think, doesn't matter, I don't think. That was funny.
Will you post that?
That was good.
Can we go back to the spring property tour?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to set that for the meeting to start at 6 o'clock and that'll be part of the meeting, or?
Yeah, why don't we just, well, to me that makes sense. Just the meeting will start at 6. Ed follows around, need to use his portable camera, and let's just do it that way.
Sure.
Rather
And
than
once we're
post
done,
it-
reconvene, and
Okay, rather than post it as something.
we're just gonna go earlier. We're just gonna have an earlier board of select meeting that day.
Okay.
Okay, simplifies it.
Okay, any other comments? We've got some correspondence. Stratford Regional one. Planning board. I think that goes to the planning board first, doesn't it? That's the bill, the invoice. Then we post what, that goes to the planning board, you guys make a recommendation. We have some mail from the Carroll County Conservation District. An enclosed workshop for town officials on May 18th. It's a workshop, if anybody wants to go, it's at Granite State College in Conway. I think that's all the correspondence we have.
We forgot to sign.
Sign the second one.
And we have any bills for tonight?
Excuse my friend.
Yes, we do have lots of bills.
You sure that you didn't,
I did not attend
oh, well,
without direction.
that goes to show you. It's like a justice or something, sign over.
I know.
We're gonna
I have
read,
one for the bank as well.
read the bills aloud.
Okay, I'll read the bill. Primex, they are our insurance carrier. We have a bill for,
That's property and general liability.
great, property general liability carrier, $28.50 is the bill, $2,850. Staples, we have a credit account with Staples, balance due $96.36. It's like paper and toner. Photo Machines Corporation, that is our copier maintenance folks. That is for $49.28.
What is that for? Did they come in? Did they come in and do maintenance? We were questioning
No.
that.
No, this is the service charge of the billing period. It is
So this is
Meter.
what we pay quarterly
for the,
for the copies that are made to keep the machine in toner and service.
And we put a service call in that we haven't heard a thing about. Is that right? You haven't heard a thing for it?
You have?
I called again last week, and she told me that they did come.
Oh, they did.
And no one was here.
It was my understanding that it's been serviced, but I haven't made several copies to see if there's any change. I made copies tonight and it was fine, but there was a part that they had ordered. I think they were waiting for it to come in, and they were gonna come back, and I don't know if they've done that yet or not. I haven't received any feedback.
Okay. We own that printer, right?
yeah, we know.
We do. And actually, it's a good rate because we pay less than a penny a copy for the maintenance of it at this point.
As long as it works, it's good.
As long as it works, it's good.
Got a simple receipt from the ZBA secretary just for some mailing reimbursement, $12.20 for certification. We had to renotice the meeting. Typically, the applicant for a ZBA hearing pays that, but we missed a couple letters, so we have to redo the meeting. So we're eating the cost of the mailings. Ryan's propane, we were very low.
Yes.
They keep forgetting that we are on automatic, but we've been reassured yet again, Ryan, that we are on automatic again. The bill is
buildings.
$899.13.
$1.19 a gallon.
It's a buy.
That's right. That's right. I think the contract was for a different number. And we still have on our pre-buy, 443 gallons we have to use by the end of May.
I just got this tonight, so I've got to check and see how much I paid on.
Why did that?
Oh, I got
It's
initially.
Yeah, I don't know.
What the hell? Look at the usage here. I'm looking at the Eversource bill. It's saying the current. Wow, it's saying that the current amount due is $385. Our usage for April is showing off the charts versus previous April. April.
Copy of the letter you got.
Our usage went up 132%.
I'll give you a copy of it.
What?
Both buildings or just one? Which building was it?
This is gonna be this building,
This building?
267.
267 is here.
Yeah, but they're both labeled 267, trying to figure out how you know which one's which.
Isn't one the,
You're only gonna have, it's by the meter, so you're gonna have one, if you have 1 meter for all 3 of these buildings, that's gonna include all 3 of these buildings.
We get two Eversource
Two
bills
bills.
always.
Right, one is here and one's the same.
Yeah, yeah. That's just concerning. What's drawing all the electricity? Is that heat tape? That wouldn't cause that much.
For April?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
That was in March, right? That's,
Well, no, it's April usage.
yeah, but it's April through March.
Yeah, it's the meter reads, right, I'm sorry, yeah, that makes sense.
So most of it's in March?
You would argue that March. Our previous April, basically, we're around 25 kilowatts.
So what's changed?
I don't know. And now we're up over 62, 63 kilowatts. We almost tripled from the previous April.
We
Oh,
have snow.
no.
It doesn't matter.
We're leaving lights on all the time outside. I know, but that's
No.
a change.
No, yes, but they're 8-watt lights. They're like a Christmas tree light.
Well, what made me think of is I just had a light put on outside there. But
8 watt, it's like a,
In the previous months, March, in the previous months, it's relatively flat. It's around 40 kilowatts. Suddenly, it spikes. It just, something's up. Something's drawing power up.
I'm on the planning board again.
It's just not right.
That's updated.
Pretty sure.
Okay.
well, let's do this.
a water heater on across the way?
She'll look tomorrow just to make sure.
Oh, no, that's on demand now, right? It's an on demand one.
demand.
It's not the electric one.
Let's do this. We gotta pay it, but let's see if it comes down with a step function. Because if it comes right back down again, then we had a usage issue.
Fair enough. Okay. Again, just concerning.
Maybe it's that old
How much is it?
It doubled.
$385, and
I'll trade you.
the usage went up by basically threefold. Why you used that one? Oh my God.
$470 last month.
You have solar panels on that house. huh?
Thing in,
we're not in that
neighborhood?
in the town salt shed,
Do they send you a
That
letter
bill
that
for this.
tells you your neighbors use my
Oh,
stuff?
yeah, you are the worst offender, is basically what it says.
We get that too.
We're getting a vacation from the Governor Wentworth School District. April bill is $7,918.
7,000?
7,000.
Can you pay him more?
7,000?
Oh, the next 2 months make up for it, it's
So can you pay him more,
244,000.
can you pay him more this winter?
No, why would I?
I know.
What is this
I
here?
never have extra money to pay him more.
I'll send that along.
Got a registration fee for the Lakes Region Clerk Association Seminar, $45. Virginia McGinley will be attending.
I don't know, that's their spreadsheet.
Virginia expenses for mailing, $37.25.
You could argue if that went up consistently for the heaters in my truck that I use on the, you know, when they're predicting
winter,
cold weather
yeah.
and stuff like that. Oh, 1 month?
Right.
In
Now,
April. It usually spikes, there's one other time
I
of year
would
it
say
spikes when
December
you're
generally
doing.
probably jumps up when I
It
start
does.
plugging trucks in.
Yep,
Well, if it doesn't, if it continues, we can put a meter on the buildings.
just shut the power off.
Just, yeah.
Kill it off.
That's interesting too.
All right, state of New Hampshire, Secretary of State's office, $8 charge for vital statistic and marriage licenses and so on and so on. Last but not least, Brad Williamson, $75 for a sign at the Brookfield Historic Burial Ground.
This comes out of, not ours, right? This comes out of the
No.
cemetery.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's on it, man.
I can tell. You can't
You sound
tell.
like me with that challenge.
All right, then I have one more from the bank. They forgot to give us one form to sign.
Just one quick thing. I'd like to make a motion, we accept the bills as read on the record.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. What else do you-
All right, so Brian, you're the second line.
Yeah.
You're blue.
And this is resolution of Lodge Association of
This is for Meredith. They always have to give you a,
Oh, Meredith Village Savings Bank, okay.
yeah.
I see.
And then Rich, you're green, and you're 2. Oh, ow, oh, God, I'm old.
I can walk now.
I love when it's color coded, it keeps it.
And you're
What-
green here as well.
What is it, nothing over here, huh?
No.
No, that's something to do with
Any
my
green over there?
And you're orange.
Why don't I have to be honest?
Aren't you glad you are?
It's a bright orange, kind of like a
Could be, I was
sweatshirt.
gonna say, it could be,
I'm 11.
it could
Thank
be,
you.
you know, now you're gonna give Brian ideas about the next town report cover.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
They'll save on our archive, as soon as I can put what color the year was.
That
and you open
color
the door,
exists,
oh,
now,
there
see,
it is.
now Brian knows that color exists.
And if we have extra copies, we can use it for the building permits. We just put the covers on.
I already
All
have that.
right, 8:30, anything else?
I'm good.
We did the bills, we did the mail. We adjourned, thank you. We're done,
Long one.
yes. Oh, we had two keynote speakers
Keep me
tonight.
up, Laura? Past bedtime?
Oh.
Yeah, no, the 2 speakers. and whatnot. Oh, she did that.